we are live, and no, I'm not talking to myself. We're on audio only with today's candidate of our dreams because he is coming to us from Mississippi too, which if you look at a map is like crazy. It's like almost the entire length of the state, height of the state, however you want to say that, covering the Mississippi Delta. So our candidate, his primary is on Tuesday, and so he is hitting the campaign trail hard. And in a D+11 district, the primary, as most of us understand, is the election. I mean, obviously, we will still go to November 3rd, but it is unlikely to flip to the other party. And so really Tuesday is it, which is why we wanted Evan here today. So Evan, real quick, why don't you introduce yourself to those who are listening now or will be listening later?
Hey, everybody. Happy to be here. My name is Evan Turnage. I'm a son of Mississippi. I've got roots in Jackson, Mississippi, and also Cleveland, Mississippi, up here in the Delta. I am traveling the roads of the Delta right now on my way to Indianola, Mississippi. We have got to have a different way here in Mississippi, and that's why I'm running this race.
Amazing. And it's also your birthday. Happy birthday.
It is also my 34th birthday. Thank you very much.
Oh my gosh, your 34th birthday? Okay. So I'm 37 and that makes me feel some type of way. So thanks, Evan. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. No, we love a fellow millennial, even if you're on the younger side of the millennial spectrum.
Yes.
And I'm just giving him a hard time. It's really not that different. But Evan, tell me more about why you're running this race. First of all, this is not a glamorous life, right? You're on the road right now trying to get to different events.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. It's very expensive. And
Yeah.
technically, the party that we like sometimes maybe kind of is in power in your district and is a D+11, so unlikely to lose power in November.
Right.
So what is it about your incumbent that you're like, hey, something needs to change here?
Right. So, just a little bit about my experience. I'm coming from having worked for 5 years almost in the United States Senate, first as Elizabeth Warren's top lawyer, then as Chuck Schumer's chief counsel. I had the opportunity to work with the entire Democratic caucus. I had the opportunity to work with the House, with the other party as well. And I have seen firsthand that the Democratic Party has to do better. The Democratic Party has to do better. I was so frustrated during my time working under the Biden administration, where we did not pass the legislation that we promised. And of course, we know that that was due to some bad apples, but the buck still stops with the party. We did not keep our promises about voting rights, about protecting women's health and reproductive decisions. We did not increase the minimum wage, and the list goes on. We have got to do things a different way. And I think being here in Mississippi, in my home district where I grew up, seeing that we have not had the sort of bold, active representation that I'm used to, especially coming out of Elizabeth Warren's office, it's so obvious that we need a different way. The Delta has been left behind. Jackson has been left behind. And it's going to take some bold advocacy, a bold fighter for this moment to actually help us uh, transition into economic prosperity.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. First of all, I didn't realize that you had worked in all those offices. So now I'm like, spill all of the tea, but not really, because you were counsel, so you can't do that. But,
Yeah.
but seriously, I think from the outside we're all very frustrated. So thank you for validating those of us who are sitting here going like, okay, is this really the best that we can do here? Like, we really can't do anything other than punt things to another year. Oh, let's wait till after midterms. Oh, look, we lost a majority of the Senate. Oh, like it was a frustrating 4 years to watch. And then of course the result was that we ended up with Trump as our president. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that you're so candid about there were all these things that were supposed to happen that just did not happen.
Yeah. And I just want to add that, I'm somebody who was screaming from the top of my lungs to any senator who will listen. We cannot talk about Bidenomics as a success because it does not match people's lived experiences and realities. It doesn't matter if the stock market is doing great, if unemployment is down, if GDP growth is up, if people can't pay their bills. Those things are nice, but people can't pay their bills. And you are invalidating their experiences when you try to sell them that the economy is working great. That has not been the case really for my entire life. The economy has been trending in the wrong direction for working families and working people in this country. And we have to have a serious conversation about that. I believe that one of the biggest problems is that both parties, including the Democrats, have been taking way too much corporate money. And my opponent in this race is one of the prime examples. He has taken millions of dollars from the very corporations exploiting Mississippians. His top donor is Aflac, an insurance company. He's taken money from Big Pharma. And hey, what's really problematic here in Mississippi, he has taken money from private prisons, the institutions benefiting off locking up our family members. And we cannot have that sort of representation anymore.
Yeah, well, and also the institutions that are entering into agreements with, like, ICE too. So,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
that's a big deal. That's a big problem.
Yeah, that's a huge problem.
Yeah, we're doing a shortened version of the candidates of our dreams format. I'm not going to go point by point of our thing, but Evan just touched on one of them. The very first one is don't take corporate PAC money. And there's a
Yeah,
reason that we don't take corporate PAC money is
yeah,
because they are representing the interests that are most of the time pretty antagonistic to democracy, to economic equality, all the things that Evan was just talking about. So
yeah.
it makes all the sense in the world that you're looking at the incumbent going like, dude, you're not going to be able to advance the agenda for we the people. So
Yeah.
Evan.
And speaking of we the people, I also have to point out that Benny Thompson was the only Democrat who voted against the For the People Act, which was Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's voting rights package. The
Mhm.
black Democrat from Mississippi voted against voting rights. That is
Right.
unforgivable to so
It
many people in this district when they hear about it.
that is totally unforgivable. I didn't realize that, so now I'm, like, kind of flabbergasted
Yeah,
that, especially in Mississippi, like, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, all those places, like, this is not the place to be voting against voting rights, especially with this current Supreme Court.
yeah,
Evan, you're a lawyer,
yeah.
so I one point I do wanna hammer on from my list is about the
It's
Supreme Court.
number 3. I am so glad, Kate, that you have that on there, and I'm the perfect person to talk to about that,
No.
perhaps, because I wrote for Senate Democrats the No Kings Act after the Supreme Court handed down that crazy decision about presidential immunity. And what that bill says is that there is no presidential immunity for criminal violations unless Congress says so, because Congress writes the criminal laws of this country, not a court. And you know what? We went one step further. We said if there are any constitutional challenges to this piece of legislation, they have to be filed in the DC District Court, appealed to the DC Circuit Court, and that's the end of it. The Supreme Court has no appellate jurisdiction to hear these cases. We have got to use those tools that are directly in Article 3, and we don't talk about them enough, but they're right there. And I am one of the people who has probably been thinking about this most seriously. I spent years in the Senate teaching senators about these tools, and we're going to use them. We're definitely going to use them.
Oh my god. So you just talked about jurisdiction stripping, and that made me so happy because you're right. It's in the Constitution. People are always talking about term limits and expanding the court and all this kind of thing, which I don't disagree with
Yeah,
necessarily. But like
yeah.
term limits will require an amendment. Like that's you can't get around that. And that's like a long-term project. Whereas jurisdiction stripping, you guys have it right there. You can strip jurisdiction all the day long. I did
It's
not realize that that was in that bill's draft. So that's
it's
incredible.
it's right there. So I already got it in there. I used that Supreme Court case as a hook for getting Democrats to sign on to something really aggressive. We got about 40 Senate Democrats on that bill. And so, for me, I've always been thinking prophylactically. It would be the worst thing in the world for us to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act or to pass the Freedom to Vote Act and just have the Supreme Court strip or, excuse me, invalidate that
Right.
legislation. We have got to insulate that legislation so that it stands.
Oh
We
my god.
can't keep having that same fight with the Supreme Court. Enough is enough.
Right. I think for some legislators, the Supreme Court is almost turned into like a convenient way for them to be like, sure, I'll sign on to this legislation, knowing full well the Supreme Court's going to invalidate or mess it up or whatever. And then they're like, whoopsie, what can we do? And to your point, like, well, we can be Congress, and Congress
Right.
is allowed to tell the Supreme Court where to stick it. Like, that's
Yeah.
one of our jobs.
And
So,
it used to be like that
right.
because every member of Congress takes an oath to the Constitution
Right.
and is a co equal branch. And for too long, Congress has ceded that ground to the courts. But no, we have a role in constitutional interpretation, and it's time we start using it. It's time we started using it aggressively and in favor of democracy.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So that just made my heart go through a pat. Evan, is there another point from the candidates of our dreams list that you want to hammer home in the time that we have?
Hey, well, obviously, I support Look, I might be the one of the few candidates who has experience
You're
in
like,
all 9 of those bullets. I support all of those, but let's talk a little bit about uh, universal health care.
okay,
I
let's
mean,
talk about that.
here in Mississippi, it is tragic that we have women in the Delta, for instance, who are dying on the sides of the road trying to get to a hospital in Jackson because there's not an OBGYN in their county. I mean, my own mother, when she was pregnant with me 34 years ago, chose to stay at home with her family when she was pregnant with me instead of in Bolivar County with my father because there was no OBGYN. And you know what? She was hospitalized due to complications. I probably wouldn't be here if she had stayed in Bolivar County. And we still have that problem today. So I'm kind of combining two things. I
Mhm.
support Medicare for all, but we have a specific maternal mortality crisis in Mississippi that I am thinking about solutions to every single day. I have put forth solutions for that on my website, my Fair Deal for Mississippi plan. I have a No Moms Left Behind link. Uh, I would encourage all of your viewers to check it out at evanturnage.com because I'm the only candidate in this race who has actual plans. You know, I come from Elizabeth Warren world, so I'm going to put my
Mhm.
plans out there.
Right. Yeah. That if you can feel whatever you want to feel about Elizabeth Warren, I happen to love her, but like you cannot say that she does not put out policy
Yeah,
all the time.
yeah,
Real, like, okay, bullets, ABC, this is what we're going to do, and this is how this law needs to be written. Anyone who says otherwise is just selling you crap.
yeah. And you know
So,
what? I wrote some of those plans too. So,
great.
I'm on board with it. You know, Elizabeth Warren is the best. And, she's why I'm in politics, honestly.
Incredible. I love that. I okay, so the final thing that I would love to drive home to you is what is it w- what is it like campaigning in such a wide area, and what can people do to support you in this? Obviously, we're in the final heat, right? Like,
Yeah,
so what could people do over the next 5 days basically
yeah,
to get the word out across the entirety of this district, which is ginormous, and ensure that you have a chance on Tuesday of unseating your opponent, which again, everybody, I said it, I'll say it for a third time. This is the election because it's a
yeah,
D plus 11 district. So it's
yeah,
going to be Democrat. So whoever wins the Democratic primary Tuesday is the representative, barring some sort of,
yeah,
tragedy.
yeah.
So,
So I would encourage everybody to go to evanturnage.com. Please chip in a contribution. This is a grassroots campaign. I have never and will never take corporate money because I've seen firsthand how it uh, stops the work of Congress.
mhm.
And look, I'm in my 30s. I'm not going there to waste time. I'm going there to do work, unlike half the folks there right now.
Right.
Uh, Please sign up to volunteer. If you know folks in Mississippi, if you know folks in this district, we can use more boots on the ground. If people want to help us with phone banking, by all means, share the plans that we're putting forth because we have had some persistent issues in the Delta. You know, I'm not on video right now because we have unreliable broadband access. We have
Mhm.
unreliable, wireless access here. So I'm just doing audio. But we got some real problems here that need real solutions. To address your first question, what has it been like? It has been so much fun. It has been so rewarding. I mean, it's hard work. This district has 30 counties in it, from the top of Mississippi almost all the way down to the bottom. But guess what? People are ready for change, Kate. They are tired of the status quo. They know that the way we've been doing things has not been working for us. This district has been left behind, and Mississippians are sick of it. They
Mhm.
want a fighter, and I'm going to tell you, we're going to win this race because the people of this district are behind this movement that puts Mississippi people's needs first. I am in this for the people. I am not in this for self enrichment or self aggrandizement. I am trying to help Mississippi first and foremost.
I love that. Evan, thank you so much, first of all, for getting into this. First of all, well, let me back up. Thank you for your life in public service in general. I am a huge fan of public servants. I spend a lot of time talking about how y'all have like some of the hardest jobs on earth because you got Republicans who think that you're just like taking a paycheck and doing nothing. And then you have Democrats who you're trying to do things for them, to your point about your earlier experience, and feel like it's like crawling along the ground on broken glass. So thank you for all of your work so far, especially for writing No Kings. Thank you. But also thank you for running this race and being there for Mississippians who are, as you said, ready for something different, ready for a change. And I'm like super energized for you for Tuesday. Like this sounds like exactly the type of race that I'm watching all the primaries this year, and so I will have yours up bookmarked, ready to look at AP, hoping that they call it for you on Tuesday.
Hey,
Um, Go ahead. Any final thoughts?
thank you so much, Kate. And, I was looking through your article. I love how you're trying to assess all candidates. Those 9 bullets are great. We need to start talking about every last one of them and keep pressure on that third one about Supreme Court jurisdiction because it's such an important tool.
I talk about it way too much. People are like, that is, in fact, I actually called Chuck Schumer's office about it several months, like way
Now,
back
now,
in the way back.
now, look, Chuck knows it. Chuck
Yeah.
knows about this. He supports the No Kings Act, and senators should have a vested interest in using it more because it's about their power. It's about their power. I think
Yeah.
far too many people have been willing to just cede these constitutional arguments to the courts. No, that is not the way America has worked. We
Right.
could, I could talk for another hour about the history of certiorari. That's not in the Constitution. That
Right.
is a statute, 28 USC 1254, paragraph 1. I'm a little ashamed to admit I know this, but I have read through the code, I have read through the history.
Yeah.
Congress had so many tools to check the courts. We got to use them.
Yep, absolutely. When I was up in DC for the State of the Union, when I was running by the Supreme Court building, I was one first. I was definitely like, dang it, y'all. Like,
Yeah,
not Ketanji Brown Jackson. She
yeah,
is accepted from all of my ire does not go towards her. That is
yeah.
or Sonia or Elena. But yes, the
And
other
Kate,
six.
it applies to everything. Citizens United. We don't need
Mhm.
a constitutional amendment to overturn that.
No.
Congress could pass a statute and it could insulate the statute. It could fight to keep that statute on the books.
Oh
We
my.
could create a new court to handle the issue. I mean, Richard Nixon, when he created his price regulator back in the 70s, he
Mhm.
created a temporary court of appeals
Yeah.
specifically for that.
Yeah.
I mean, so we can get creative. The only limit is our political will to do it.
Thank you. Political will, I think, is the name of the game when it comes to the Supreme Court. People think I'm weird for how much I talk about jurisdiction stripping, and I'm like, you don't understand. Like, this
Yeah.
is going to be one of the ways that we save
Mhm.
ourselves from
Yeah.
from the next Samuel Alito, since we all know he's retiring this year, and God knows what nonsense Trump will find out of the dumpster to nominate in his place. But um,
Absolutely.
Evan, I know you have to get to your next
Yeah.
thing. I really appreciate your time this evening. Everyone,
Thank
when I
you.
send out the recording, I will put links to website, all the volunteerism and donation options for Evan's campaign. It is Tuesday. This is time sensitive, so I'm going to be sending it out tonight.
Thank you.
And yeah, no problem. And then I'll also send out all the information about elections in Mississippi too and everything. So if you're in Mississippi too, or you know people who are in Mississippi and maybe you don't know which district they're in, just send it to them anyway. And maybe if they're in there, that's great. And we can make sure that Evan becomes the candidate of Mississippi two's dreams.
Thank you so much, Kate. It was so much fun.
Absolutely.
And now I'm about to hop out and go talk about how we can reduce violence in the Mississippi Delta here at this Indianola courthouse. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Have a great evening. Thank you, everybody.
Take care, y'all.